Hello, welcome to Business Week, the program that brings you top business stories that made the headlines during the week, including special interviews, features, market data, and much more. Welcome. Well, here's the highlight of the biggest stories we tracked for you over the course of the week that was. On the local front, investors in the Nigerian stock market recorded gains up to 420 billion naira in April as listed companies began releasing their earning reports for the first quarter of the year 2021. Data from the Nigerian Exchange Limited shows that market capitalization of equities rose to 20.85 trillion naira as of April the 30th. Nigeria's foreign reserves also lost $350 million in just 2 weeks, falling to $34.9 billion on April the 29th from a high of $35.25 billion as of the 16th of last month. In the power sector, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has approved the sum of 121.92 billion naira and 93.76 billion naira for the Ikeja Electric PLC and Eco Electric Distribution Company infrastructure upgrade, respectively, for the next 5 years. The NERC disclosed this in its Performance Improvement Plan and Extraordinary Tariff Review application. And now in the telecommunications space, MTN Nigeria Communications PLC has reported a profit after tax of 73.75 billion naira for the first quarter of the year 2021, up by 42.35% from 51.74 billion naira in the same quarter just last year. The telecommunications giant also says its profit before tax rose to 102.99 billion naira in the first quarter from 76.91 billion naira in the same period last year. On the international front, Britain is set to announce the green list for countries that people can travel to on holiday shortly, and would also have the right procedures in place to ensure travel can happen safely. Well, that's according to Britain's Trade Minister Liz Truss. In the United States, manufacturing activities grew at a slower pace in the month of April, restrained by shortages of inputs as rising vaccinations against the COVID-19 and massive fiscal stimulus unleashed pent-up demand. In the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Aramco beats analysts' forecast with a 30% rise in the first quarter net profit and also maintained its dividend payout, helped by strong oil prices. The net income rose to $21.7 billion for the first quarter to March the 31st from $16.7 billion a year earlier. A U.S. judge on Tuesday also pressed the chief executive of Fortnite creator Epic Games on how the fundamental changes the game maker is asking her to force on Apple Incorporation's App Store would affect the livelihoods of millions of developers who make software for Apple devices. It's now time to bring you our special packages prepared by our correspondents. In this first report now, there seems to be no end in sight to the level of unpatriotic tendencies by some importers in Nigeria. The importation of more than 16,000 bottles of expired table water intercepted by the KLT commander of the Nigeria Customs Service begs the question of waste of scarce foreign exchange. TVC News correspondent Ifunaya Ize reports.
Even with federal government's foreign exchange restriction for certain products imported into the country, importers have continued to deploy illegal ways of bringing prohibited goods. The interception of more than 16,000 bottles of table water from Poland by the Kirikiri Lighter Terminal Command of the Nigeria Customs Service has been described as worrisome.
We had gotten intelligence earlier on this water, and it was declared as vodka. You know, vodka is an alcoholic drink. And we have been profiling this container prior to seizing it. Upon examination, it was discovered to contain bottled water. Now, not only that the water has expired, which is not fit for human consumption, but it is also prohibited for import. It's on the import prohibition list. No declaration was made. We're on the trail of the importer. because we must get to the bottom of this.
The command also made seizures of thousands of used tires concealed in a container and other contraband goods with duty paid value of more than 55 million naira.
And you can also understand that this tire has lost structural integrity by the way they are squeezed one into the other. You can see like this one now, you have about 6 tires in one. So these tires have lost their structural integrity, and you can imagine the implications of putting this on the road. You just put the lives of innocent Nigerians at risk. So this is the kind of thing that we are faced with.
The command has remitted 7.9 billion naira to the Federation account between January and March 2021, representing a 36.8% increase compared to the duty collected in the first quarter of 2020.
And now, in this second report, the National Bureau of Statistics has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Nigerian Ports Authority and Nigeria Film Corporation on data collection. It is in an effort geared towards improving data collection and utilization of the country's service industry for economic gains following implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Lara Falaya has the details.
90% of world trade is done across the sea. The global maritime industry is evolving as cargo movement across borders continues to rise. The introduction of bigger vessels and automated terminal operations are among other contributing factors. The recognition of data as a main driver in modern corporate intelligence forms the thrust of this MOU signing between the National Bureau of Statistics and the Nigerian Ports Authority.
Generating and disseminating more granular information on all these activities will definitely be useful in ensuring that policymakers and managers within the sector are fully equipped with the right tools and evidence to do their work.
The benefits for the Ports Authority includes having access to the Bureau's data for planning, research and monitoring amid other purposes.
The sharing of expertise in the latest method of data management through the adoption of modern tools such as applied statistics, data science, and deep learning.
The collaboration between the Bureau of Statistics and the Nigerian Film Corporation, on the other hand, will help generate a statistical data framework for the country's film industry. This should hopefully result in the emergence of more reliable data for the industry and improve the financial sector's participation in the subsector, amongst other positives.
Prior to the last GDP rebasing exercise conducted in 2013-2014, the arts entertainment sector, of which the film industry is a subset, was grossly undercovered in our national account compilations. With major improvement in our coverage and reporting, a lot more can be done.
It will help us to forecast returns on investment in the film industry. And of course, researchers and the academia will have access to relevant data and information on the industry.
The renewed data collection process is expected to provide the authorities with relevant information that will drive policy effectiveness while giving operators and investors the needed details to drive informed decisions.
And with those reports now, we delve into the feature of the show today, bringing into perspective matters regarding the state of insecurity in Nigeria and, in real terms, the economic toll it has on Nigeria's food baskets and rise and hike in food prices. We have details of this conversation and much more coming up shortly after this break. Don't go anywhere. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's now deal with the crux of today's discourse: insurgency, unrest, and the stance of President Muhammadu Buhari's government on food imports. In Nigeria, a nation where more than half of the population lives on less than $2 a day, is worsening food insecurity in the country. Meanwhile, the coronavirus pandemic has also robbed 70% of Nigerians of some form of income. Well, that's according to a COVID-19 impact survey. Food inflation rose to 22.95% in the month of March, caused by wide-ranging price increases across items such as cereals, yam, meat, fish, and fruits, the staple foods. The soaring costs have also been in part blamed on a worsening conflict between farmers and herders in Nigeria's agriculture belt that President Buhari has struggled to quash. Fingers are crossed now, waiting for next week's data from the National Bureau of Statistics, with the fears of Nigerians expecting a further spike to become the harsh reality. This means day by day, Nigerians are finding it much more difficult to feed, as they barely can keep up with the rising cost of food. Joining me now via Skype to discuss this trend and much more, I have the Chief Executive Officer of Envirogrow Farms, Nkiru Okereke. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. That would be great.
Now, the state of insecurity is threatening our food baskets, and this is fueling the hike in food prices. It is increasingly unbearable for us to feed, as the volume of purchase in the market can barely be compared to what we had last year or even last quarter or last month. What's your take on all of these?
You know, for some of the food we're purchasing this year, they were supposed to have been planted like last year. Something like cassava, yam, they take 9 to 12 months ready. So during that peak of the COVID lockdown and with insecurity, farmers couldn't go to their farms. Even those who were able to go to their farms and planted weren't able to go and weed. So the harvest was quite low. So this is the effect of actually, apart from the insecurity and COVID, because you know all our farms are in very rural areas where you have the herdsmen issue and the Boko Haram issue in the north, where we get most of our food. So that is actually, there's less produce coming in from the farms. So that will invariably affect demand and supply.
What sort of conversation do you also expect from governors now at subnational levels? Take, for example, the Saltwards region, which comprises of Ogun, Oyo, Lagos State. The security situation can still allow some active level of food production. How do we aggressively increase production, take a new product, and also create new baskets, food baskets within the region?
All right, you know, farming like computers is garbage in, garbage out. So what you get out on your harvest is based on the inputs. A lot of our farmers are still using generational seeds. That means if that seed produced 20 tons per hectare this year, if you use the seedlings from that and plant the next time, you're going to get like 15 or 10. It keeps decreasing. And the farmers don't have access to good inputs. The Southwest, which luckily for them have an institution like IITA, that always has improved seedlings for everything, needs to start having conversations with these kind of organizations on how to assess improved seedlings. Because if you have improved seedlings and you concentrate agriculture now, or the farming production in these areas which are relatively stable, that can offset the imbalance for the places that are unstable, apart while still working on the insecurity issues. So if they work with organizations who are into soil testing to make sure that people are planting the right soil, making sure that the farmers get the right inputs, the improved seedlings, and things like fertilizer on time, that can offset the gap with production coming from the north while they are still working on the insecurity. I can't emphasize enough the problem that insecurity is causing for farmers.
And also now, let's take on the body language of governors at this point in time. Do you think the governors understand how grim the picture is, looking at a state of insecurity and its impact on the current food prices? If nothing is done in the interim, we would have things get far worse.
No, the body language isn't. They're still all playing politics with the issue of the security. Each of them is setting up their own security apparatus, and they're fighting with the center and the rest. But while people still are dying, their body language doesn't seem to send the signal that they understand what is happening and they need to start addressing it from the roots. So while they're still having those conversations, they're still playing politics with their security and food crisis. But I don't think it has hit them the extent of the food crisis. Because, I mean, for all of us to go to market, you come back, and if not that you went to market yourself, you think that the person you sent to market has stolen from you. The governors are not doing the right thing they need to do. They are still not understanding the effect. I mean, countries have been brought down due to lack of food. They don't understand the extent of the hunger and poverty in the land. I think till people start protesting on the streets and shouting about not being able to feed, before they will really get the extent of lack of food is causing in the society.
Also, tilting the conversation to working on processing and post-harvest losses now. If we concentrate much more energy in regional hubs and areas of comparative advantages, the toll of transportation, storage and logistics challenges wouldn't be as bad, don't you think?
Yes, I agree. But that's also where government comes in. And the federal government has a document they have prepared on every region and what they have a comparative advantage in. Something like the Southwest shouldn't really be going to something like tomatoes because tomatoes do better in, I think, North Central and places like that. So if the government is willing to work with farmers on that, and some soils are not stable or good enough for some produce, so they need to go back really to the drawing board and tackle it from the root. This is our area. Do soil testing and soil mapping. What can we grow best here? What do our people consume the most here that doesn't need to come from the north? So those are things they can work on, but government needs to be part of that conversation to find out what the people have comparative advantage for, what the people there consume, so there's less logistic cost on getting those things to where it is really consumed.
Pricing is a harsh reality as issues encountered from farmers to middlemen and then market men and women are transferred to the end buyers, the consumers of the markets. That's me and you, literally. Do you think anytime soon the trend would reverse where the high cool plateau, even with seasonal elements that support bumper harvests?
Pricing is dependent really on supply and demand. And then another problem we'll have is that most farmers don't have access to the final consumers. So the middlemen squeeze the farmers for prices. So, I mean, many places in many countries, they have what they have like a buying board where government sets up agencies that support farmers to try to get the food directly to the farmers, to the last consumers. But the government is not supporting farmers in that. So farmers will plant, farmers will now have to go out themselves to find the market for themselves. And many times, because these farmers and the rural area don't have access to media, don't have access to contacts and the rest, they are left to the hands of the middlemen who squeeze them for prices. So that is where they have buying agencies or farmer support agencies, even to get farmers in together as a cooperative, get them to group as cooperative, or take what they have, or buy or find access to market for them. And the market now buys directly from them through a cooperative. Something like we all drink milk, pig milk. The dry milk that they used to bring in from them is from a cooperative formed in the Netherlands. It's not individual farmers. The company is owned by a cooperative of milk producers. And so that's where government needs to come in, try to get farmers to set up cooperative, like a buying agency, and try to help them to get access to the final consumers. That is where farmers can now make money, and which will translate to higher increase in productivity.
Let's now turn our attention to the future of farming, mechanized farming, aggressive private-public partnerships, and also working models and interface with the Ministry of Agriculture, greenhouse farming, where you're well vested, and much more. What's your take on all of these? The future, what does this hold for us?
The future of agriculture is mechanizations. We have to embrace it, and we have to embrace it quick. But the thing is that the initial cost of investment is really very high. So many farmers can't do it on a private basis. The organizations that are setting up to provide mechanization to farmers and even inputs and the rest. But a lot of times, a lot of farmers can't afford it. So that's also where the non-governmental agencies come in as a support, or government even bringing in those machineries, giving them to farmers in the cooperative, and then having the farmers pay back when they have their harvest and the rest. Mechanization is actually the future of farming, and we really have to embrace it. But with the high cost, the high barrier to entry for that, government and non-governmental agencies have to support farmers to be able to pass that hurdle.
We're expecting reports from the National Bureau of Statistics to release the next report for the Consumer Price Index report for the month of April now. We've seen consistently food index has driven the inflationary pressures we are dealing with. Do you think we're going to see a major spike once again, going by the reports we've had within the first quarter of the year, or it's just going to be a smaller volume of increase?
I know there's going to be an increase, but I can't really say whether it's going to be mild or sharp. But from what I'm seeing, it's going to be a sharp increase. I'm hopeful it will be a mild one, but I believe it's going to be a sharp increase. And you know the rains are coming, And a lot of our products won't do really very well in the rainy season, because you now also add the logistic problems of bringing them from where they're produced to where they're consumed. So everybody should actually get their loins. There's going to be, I believe, a sharp increase in the prices.
Thank you very much for your time on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope government takes cues from all of these discussions we are having on ground. We have to be able to attend to our basic needs. Feeding is critical. But just before we go now, here's the graphic details of the Transport Fair Watch we've prepared for you. And that's it on this edition of Business Week. Many thanks for watching so far, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm David Alabi. Bye for now.